Hi everyone, this is Jim Pruner from webbikeworld.com. I'm here today to talk about the MCCruise control system, or MCCruise as many people like to call it, the system from Australia, all the way here in North America for our enjoyment. It's probably been my favorite feature that I've written about, very near and dear to my heart because I've wanted cruise control on this 2014 1190 Adventure ever since I got it. I don't know how a company can claim that a machine is a touring adventure machine without cruise control, because you're inevitably going to be on the highway at some point, and if you're touring across the country, you're certainly going to want cruise control. So my goal today in this video is to talk about the general layout of the system now that it's installed in my bike successfully, and talk about any problems that I may have had and how I got around it. And finally, my favorite thing about this system is the ability to self-diagnose problems. You can effectively check your work before you take it out on the road and face danger. I mean, there have been people who have taken cruise control systems out of automotive applications and dropped them in bikes, and what they found is the actuators have jammed to wide open throttle and the bike takes off on them. MCCruise is a different thing altogether. There's no possible way that can happen with this system that I'm talking about today, because this is a fully electronic throttle by wire system, meaning there's no moving parts whatsoever to jam up. Now, I suppose there could be an electronic issue that could cause a problem, but from what I've seen, testing this thing very thoroughly, there's no issue. It works great, very harmoniously, seamlessly integrates with the CAN bus system on the bike. So what I'm going to do is take the camera, take you on a tour of the bike for where it installs, and then from there, we'll move on to the diagnostic portion. All right, here we are at the control switch for the system right here. Now this has the same buttons on it that you would find in a car: on, off, resume, decelerate, set, and accelerate. It works in the same method as it would in a car, in that you use it, push the button for set to set your speed, accelerate and decelerate. You can turn it on and off. Now, what I find though is that it's much smoother. You know how in a car or even some bikes, if you let go of the throttle before the cruise engages, how it jerks? This doesn't do it. It rolls on smooth. So that's one thing I really like about it. Now, you can see this wire coming down here. If you set it up right, you can actually run it underneath, and you can mount the switch down here instead. There is also a higher mount bracket that would put it up, I think, about here, if you have some switches down here that you need access to. As you can see on this bike, there's plenty of room. I can slide my whole hand right up to my knuckles under it. Now, if we follow this, this is actually connected to the throttle position sensor harness. So it follows basically the cable coming off of the clutch reservoir, goes down here, and if you look here in the neck of the frame, you will see a nasty mess of connectors. And this guy right there that I'm pointing at is a 6-pin clear connector. That's the throttle position sensor. Now what you do is you unplug that connector, plug in one end of the MCCruise TPS harness on each side, and then you run it back to the back of the bike. There's multiple connectors in there. You've got some other ones for your clutch switch and your front brake switch, and those also are involved with the second harness that runs from the back to the front of the bike. So along this tubular frame is where the harnesses both run. So you tuck them back in there, and they run here underneath the gas tank between the tubular frame and this, the airbox. So on the 1190, this is quite a big hassle to pull off the gas tank and get in here. But once you do it, it's fine. And you can maybe just see the harnesses back here in behind these brake lines. And that's the way to do this, is you run them right parallel with these brake lines to the center of the bike right here by the cross member that the rear shock bolts to, and you come up. This is actually one of them right here. And they come up right here and run underneath the frame here. You have to loosen a couple of bolts on this body panel, and when you do that, then you can route. This is where they all join together right here, and go to the back of the bike where everything joins up with the MCCruise brain, which you can see right here. So this cruise control system has its own electronic control module, and this is it right here. Probably what I would say is the most challenging part of the installation for this throttle by wire system is making sure that you get, there are about 5 or 6 wires that you have to insert into this connector, just because of routing. You wouldn't be able to route this big plug all the way along the frame. So you have to make sure you get them in the right spot. Luckily, that is explained very well in the instruction book. And you can even use the instructions down the road as a schematic to troubleshoot the system if you have a broken wire or something like that going on. The module mounts back here under this, they call it a duck bill in the instructions. Use Velcro tape and just stick it up in there. And then if you don't throw away the foam in your MCCruise box, this actually is the box right here that everything comes in. And there's foam in it, as I said. You stick the foam underneath the module just to keep it firmly in place like that. This wire here comes out to the harness, and that's a power wire. It supplies power to the system. And these little spade connectors, there's a couple of them tucked back in here that you can use for accessories. Works really good. Now, you may have noticed, well, maybe not, because they're not really sticking out at this point, but here they are. I've got a couple of hoses here, and these guys are actually a part of the emissions canister for the gas tank. And you see this one with the blue mark on it. That one has a bolt in it now, which I inserted, because what I found I had to do was remove the canister to better access getting that control module in there. So this right here, this is the emissions canister. So you can see when that was in there, there's no room for anything. Now, I don't live in California. I don't have to worry about emissions off the gas tank. So the center nozzle here is where the hose with the bolt in it, this one, connects. And that goes to your PCV, or pressure control valve. The way you can tell that you've got that right one is by taking the hose and blowing in it. And if no air moves, you know you've got the line going to the PCV. So you just plug that off and good to go. This other hose is just a breather that goes all the way back along here up to the gas tank, and if I took this cover off, you would see just the rubber hose coming up here just to the breather at the top of the gas tank. Now, in other videos, you've probably seen people removing all the hoses and tearing the bike half apart to do that. What I wanted to do was leave it in place in case I ever wanted to reinstall the canister. I can't see that happening, but you know, just to be on the safe side, it doesn't hurt. Now, that hose, both of them really, run around down along here and head back up that way. The breather for the gas tank is actually right here. And so what I did to make sure that I can reinstall this if I want to is I just cut it right here. Now normally the other half would have gone up here, kind of where those harnesses were routed. And I just pulled it back like this, like back fed it. And then I reinstalled it pointing straight down the other side of the bike. There's some other drain hoses there. I just joined them up. So now if anything ever has to drain out, it still can. Meanwhile, this hose is still intact. And if I ever wanted to reinstall a canister, I just pull that hose back and put in a little barbed fitting between the two, reinstall the canister back here, and good to go. For now, I'm just leaving that there. I mean, I guess I would probably want to blow out the lines as well. Now, another part of the harness, other than the parts that run back here, you'll see this right here goes over to what is the diagnostic plug, and this actually goes over to this, the bike ECM. And so now you've got the MCCruise ECM working through the CAN bus system in harmony with the bike ECM. And this is how it does it. It can monitor all the same systems that the bike control module can. There is also one more length of harness that goes over to the other side of the bike over here, and it actually connects into one of the spark plug coils. The instructions are good because they show you how to pull apart the connectors even on the bike, hook everything up with no issue. The instructions were fantastic, in fact, even though they were written in a foreign language, Australian. I was pretty impressed with my command of that international language and how much it really resembled our North American English. The pictures in it were clear, even though they were in black and white, and easy to read and understand. Okay, so these are the instructions. You can see the pictures are pretty good. And yeah, there's the MCCruise title page. So now I'm going to get into this part, which is the diagnostics. So we go up here, and the way to put it into the test mode or diagnostic mode is on the control switches. We hold in set and on, and then we turn the key on. And we see a green light there. That means we're now in test mode. So that's ready to go. What we can do now is test the installation that we did by testing all the switches. So front clutch, front brake, rear brake. And what we should see when we actuate those is the little green light flashes. So if I pull in the clutch, there's a green light on and off with each squeeze, and that confirms that the MCCruise control module sees the signal from the switch here, and it would shut off the cruise control if it was running. And if I reach over here to the front brake and squeeze, same thing. With each squeeze, I see a green light, so that's working. And I reach over here with my foot. Each time I hit the pedal, green light. So I know that I've installed all the wires correctly. I know that everything is as it should be. So the next part is to move into the calibration mode for the throttle position sensor. The way we do that is we hold the on button, we push set 6 times. And if you push 7 times, the bike blows up, I think. But if you push 6 times, just a red light comes on, telling you that you're in the mode to calibrate the TPS. So what you're going to calibrate is no throttle and full throttle. So right now we are at no throttle. I just confirmed that on the throttle here. And you push set. And we see a green light. That indicates, okay, that's low throttle or no throttle. So now I turn the throttle all the way full, and I push resume or decelerate, whatever you want to call it, I get a yellow light marking that. So that's also what's supposed to happen. This is all explained in the instruction book. Now we can confirm that the throttle range has been mapped out by pushing and holding the on button until the light goes green. So there we go. And now if I twist the throttle, just back up a little bit to see the throttle, as soon as I come off no gas, the light starts flashing, indicating that it's getting a signal different than no throttle. And if I go all the way to full throttle, I should see that yellow light again. And there it is. Yellow light, flashing green light in between, solid green light at no throttle. Things are good. Now there's one more thing that we can do with this, and it's confirming that the accelerate and decelerate switches are working. We can actually right here in the garage start the bike, and pushing the accelerate button we can raise the RPM on the tach about 200 each push of the button. Unfortunately, you can't hold the button and have it just continually raise. You have to like keep jamming on it. Now you can adjust how many RPM it goes up or down using the switches, but I found 200 is more than good. So I just stuck with the stock setting. So I'm going to fire the bike up, get it idling, raise the idle with accelerate, lower the idle with decelerate, and then I'm going to raise it again and I'm going to squeeze the front brake just to show you how it will cut out the engine altogether back to low idle. All right, so here we go. First of all though, we have to hold the on button and put it back to the red light to get this to work. So we'll fire her up. And here we go, raising the RPM, get the tach in there. Right down to low idle again. So I'll raise it up a little and reach for the front brake. And you can see it drops right away. So that's it. Now we know we turn off the key once everything is set and it retains it in the memory of the system and you're good to go. I am just over the moon happy with this system. I was about ready to sell this bike and trade up to maybe a newer 1290 Adventure or something, you know, equivalent with cruise control. I'm not thinking about doing that anymore. I mean, I really liked this bike and I wanted to keep it. This makes me so happy. About the only thing I have to deal with now to make this near perfect is the uncomfortable seat. But I tell you this, MCCruise, despite the fact that it is fairly expensive to buy, you're looking about $550 US for the whole system, is still well worth it. I mean, we've all tried these things, and I'm throwing mine away now because I've got no use for these throttle locks anymore. They're garbage. This is a real electronic cruise control system. And the only real fly in the ointment for me is just the price. I would say that as far as the installation goes, you're going to have to know what you're doing. You can't just sort of walk into this blind as a green rookie. I would rate it maybe a 5 out of 10 on the difficulty scale. If you know how to work with tools, if you do work on your bike, you should be able to put in this throttle by wire system. The other system for cable actuated throttles is maybe a little more fussy. I can't comment on it beyond that because obviously I haven't installed it. But as far as this one goes, it's simple, it works, I love it. And that, my friends, is my review of the MCCruise system for Web Bike World.